Okay, let's start with this. You're very, very tied into the Lakers. Didn't you work out with them years ago?
I was on their summer league team, yeah.
Yeah. So you got connections all through the organization. I'm sure you lunch with Jeannie Buss on a regular basis. So here we go. Okay, so Lonzo worked out a second time. What do your sources say?
Okay, so the first workout, which I shared with you last time, and by the way, Jenny, welcome back. You were great on the Open with the updates all weekend long.
I
You look
appreciate
spectacular. So Lonzo, the first time, they were concerned about his conditioning. 18 minutes in, he was on his shorts, breathing hard. They cut it after about 40 minutes. They're like, are you kidding me? You come to the Lakers. It's the one team you want to play for. And he wasn't in top-level shape. And that obviously hurt his ability to shoot the basketball, his ability to finish at the rim as well. It's a one-on-none workout. So Magic and Rob Pelinka went to where Lonzo worked out, and it was better. It wasn't, he didn't blow them away. Here's what I've heard from the Lakers. They brought in all these guards, these lead guards, right? And Markelle Fultz came in before this trade was made with the Philadelphia 76ers, between the Boston Celtics and Sixers. And to a man, the Lakers believe that while all these other guards, the De'Aaron Foxes of the world, going to be a good point guard.
Yeah.
And that Lonzo Ball could be a Jason Kidd type. Fultz was a better shooter, had a better, what's called finishing package, all the different shots and the explosiveness around the rim, that it wasn't really close, that Fultz was here and everybody else was here. And there wasn't much done Friday in his own private workout at his own private facility to make up that gap. They were pleased that he was in better shape, but he's still not a great athlete. And their biggest concern, honestly, is can he guard anybody? Because when he was in high school playing at Chino Hills, they pressed the whole game. He took chances, and he kind of did the same thing. And they have so many swinging gates defensively. They have so many guys that can't guard anybody. Luke Walton knows that everybody's fascinated by the Warriors and where he came from in their offense, but their defense is what's won them a couple of championships, and that's really their biggest area of concern and what may still hold them back from drafting Lonzo Ball.
So if Phoenix came and said, why don't you slide down, we'll eat up Mozgov's contract, and they could take De'Aaron Fox, do you think they'd take the call?
Well, De'Aaron Fox is kind of the opposite, right? He comes in, and they go for over an hour, and he could have gone an hour more. Like, he's a physical freak in terms of his conditioning.
So fast.
Elusive, athletic, and just a dynamic kid in the locker room, right? Maybe not the on-floor leader that Lonzo Ball is, the shot creator. On the other hand, though De'Aaron Fox shot the ball better, and he may be able to continue to improve, there's still, like, if you look at his shot chart from college, it's basically all layups with the exception of a jump shot here, a jump shot there. Do I think they would do it? I think they'd be encouraged defensively. I think that before the Paul George news, they really are thinking hard about Josh Jackson at number 2 because Jackson changes their culture as a leader. He's got great toughness. He's a winner. And he doesn't have the ego of having to be a number 1 scorer. And they're going to have that with Ingram. They're going to have that with Paul George eventually. I still think at the end of the day, they'll probably take Lonzo Ball even ahead of a De'Aaron Fox, but Fox blew them away with his athleticism and his conditioning and his want to be there. You know, it's like Lonzo says he wants to be there. His dad says that's the only place he wants to be, but then you show up and you're not in great shape and you're not dynamic. And now we also have to point out that some guys, based upon how they play, are going to be better one-on-none, better in a workout.
Yeah, I mean, Lonzo's game isn't.
No, it's a 5-on-5 game.
It's not like a Penny Hardaway. Remember Penny Hardaway who could 360 jam and.
Well, now Penny could make other people, but when you make other people better and there's nobody else to make better, that's really, really hard to prove in an empty gym.
Okay, so let's go. Paul George played at Fresno. He's a Cali guy. You know people that know Paul George. So Kevin Pritchard's responsibility to Herb Simon is get the most I can get. So Cleveland could say, here's Kevin Love. I got 3 years left. Kevin Love's an all-star level player, especially in the East. And he's been kind of minimized, marginalized in Cleveland with LeBron and Kyrie, like Bosh was in Miami with Wade and LeBron.
Correct.
Or the Lakers can give him draft picks and Julius Randle. I mean.
But they don't actually have draft picks right now. Remember, their first-round draft pick goes to the Celtics now via this trade. It was the 76ers property. I mean, Mitch Kupchak butchered a lot of stuff, but giving away these draft picks. I mean, the Steve Nash trade is one of the all-time worst trades in the history of the league. Nash was a free agent. He was going to move anyway. And Phoenix turned that into 4 picks, 2 first, 2 second-round picks, and he barely ever even played for the Lakers. That's what they're still kind of giving over here. So that's the problem with the Lakers. Do you want D'Angelo Russell, who the Lakers aren't in love with? You know, do you want Julius Randle, who the Lakers aren't in love with? Like, do you want young players who might become something, or do you want to take Kevin Love, who let's be honest, it's Indiana. He's a white star, probably not a superstar. And he's the one guy, whether he was marginalized or his talents don't fit the game against the Warriors, Paul George seems to be a better fit for what the Cavs need in order to keep up with the Joneses in Oakland. So for the Cavs, it obviously makes more sense. For the Pacers, one player versus a bunch of players, that's the most fascinating thing. And then for the Lakers, you're sitting there going, hey, wait a second. We're just like the Knicks before they made the move to get Carmelo Anthony. For people who don't remember, Carmelo wanted to go to the Knicks, but he was very nervous about the new collective bargaining agreement. He wanted the trade consummated before the lockout, which did occur, so he could re-up under the old collective bargaining agreement. And because of it, the Knicks, who had a nice young team, trade away all their young assets. That's why he went to a terrible team, because Carmelo forced that deal. Paul George is kind of similarly forcing this deal. The only difference is the Lakers aren't in love with most of those assets. They're just young. They're not giving up Ingram, and I very much doubt they would give up that number 2 pick, because that's the building blocks of what they want to do. They want to start with the number 2 pick, maybe Lonzo Ball, maybe Josh Jackson, and Brandon Ingram and Paul George, and that's what they want to build around.
Fultz goes to Philly. Ball goes to the Lakers. Boston takes who?
I think Jayson Tatum. And here's why. Josh Jackson he feels like a Brad Stevens kind of guy, right? He doesn't have to be a go-to scorer, great in their locker room culture, tons of toughness, can play a bunch of positions, doesn't have to take the ball and play right away. But they just drafted Jaylen Brown, who has some similarities. Jayson Tatum doesn't have the highest ceiling of these prospects, but he's the most ready to compete.
He can shoot and score now.
He can shoot, he can score, he can post a little bit, he can probably guard 2 positions. He's great, better in a workout than I think he is in reality, but in how they play and what they need, I think Jayson Tatum is a better fit. And by the way, let's give it up to Danny Ainge. They like Markelle Fultz, but they didn't need Markelle Fultz. So they take Jayson Tatum or they take Josh Jackson, and now they have 3 first-round picks next year. They have the Lakers pick. Remember, they have the Brooklyn Nets pick. This is not the Brooklyn Nets pick this year. This year, they just have the rights to swap picks with the Nets. So the Nets are still probably the worst team in the league. They got a shot at the number 1 pick next year. They got their own pick next year, and they have the Lakers pick next year. They have the next 3 years, they have 7 first-round draft picks. In addition to the fact that they have some really good young assets, and they're going to have cap space in order to go out, potentially get Gordon Hayward, or to get somebody else on the market next year when there's a big free agency bonanza. Boston has set itself up to be very good for a long time.
There's San Antonio East, which you just can't see them being anything but viable for a decade.
And you can also say that this is a smart move from the Sixers. And you're like, wait, how does it an equal trade? What's the point of the Sixers continuing to just acquire assets and not use them to move up? You get the best guard in the draft, a guy who can be a Damian Lillard type and play off the basketball with Ben Simmons, can play point as well. And now you put Simmons along with Joel Embiid, along with Markelle Fultz, and now you have a dynamic team. You continue to add some veterans to that team, and within a year or 2, that's a playoff team with dynamic young stars. Philadelphia did right by themselves, and I think so did Boston. I think this is smart from Boston. Even though Fultz has a higher ceiling, Tatum's more ready to play, and they're a playoff team. They have as you know, they had the best record in the East, and now they're going to get themselves better.
By the way, I like Paul George. I don't think you win a title if he's your best player. In Cleveland, he would be your 3rd best player. If he goes to Cleveland, let's say they trade him, and Kevin Pritchard's like, I like Kevin Love. He'll fit here for 3 years. Do you think Paul George would go to the Lakers eventually or get into that LeBron, Kyrie, Paul George, Tristan Thompson dominating the East mode and fall in love with it?
I think that's the risk that you take if you're Cleveland. Remember, LeBron's up next year too, so you go all in for a year, win a absolutely, and then do you run the risk of losing him? Sure, but why not have him in Cleveland, have him part of your culture, and if you lose him, you lose him. You can go out and find a 3rd best player. You can't go out and find a Kyrie or a LeBron. I absolutely make the move now, even though video game wise, it makes them dynamic, it makes them better, it makes them versatile in terms of guarding the Golden State Warriors. That's where the Warriors kill you, is Kevin Love's not really that versatile in guarding in the perimeter. He's become a very good 3-point shooter, but that's not really who he is. They still will lose some of that toughness, some of that interior scoring, some of the little things, the outlet pass, some of the little things that Kevin Love is willing to do. It might have hurt them once they got to the finals, but it helped them get to the finals. So does it make them better? Yes. Does it make them better than the Warriors?
But they're closer.
Much closer.
He's a long.
That's the story of the playoffs that we didn't talk enough about.
Get close as you can.
No, not that. It was about matchups, and the mismatch was Kevin Love, and so the Warriors kept going small, and the answer to that is you have to score in the post. You have to make them pay for going small. Now we assume that the Cavs, if they could make this move, would be able to go small and match up man for man. LeBron wouldn't have to be the only guy guarding Kevin Durant. Now you'd have Paul George who could guard Kevin Durant some, as well as Kevin Durant would have to guard Paul George or Klay Thompson. Who does he guard? Now you can't hide Steph Curry nearly as well. You have to put him on J.R. Smith in order to hide him. It becomes a much more dynamic offensive team. Even if the point totals are exactly the same, it's the style of play and it's the matchup of the two teams that become almost even. And then, of course, there's news today that Andre Iguodala is going to explore leaving the Warriors to see if he can get more money.
And Bogut could get re-signed.
Yeah, he's kind of washed, though. He's kind of washed.
Okay, Gottlieb, Broussard, Metta World Peace, first round NBA draft, Thursday, 7 on Fox Sports Radio. Great seeing you, bud. I love this time of the year. I just love it.
It's great.
I love it.
It's already more exciting than the NBA playoffs.